The Minnesota Vikings just signed Daniel Jones, and it once again proves that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is an incredible forward thinker. How? Let's talk about it. News broke early on Wednesday morning that the Minnesota Vikings signed Daniel Jones to the practice squad. Now, it's an interesting move for multiple reasons. One, they're paying him a relatively high salary for the practice squad. It's worth $375,000 the rest of the season, which is significantly higher than what he would get if it was just a regular practice squad spot. It's essentially a veteran minimum contract. Now, why would they do that to keep him on the practice squad? Well, it's pretty simple. They want to bring him into the building. They want to have the ability to have him on staff if something goes wrong. Nobody knows quite what it's like to have four quarterbacks play for them like the Minnesota Vikings. That's exactly what they had in 2023 after Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. Things were bleak, and they had to try different guys out there to try and get a spark, try and get some wins. They ended up finishing the season 3-6. And they were close in some of these games. If they would have had a competent starter, well, guess what? They probably end up making the playoffs, but it just didn't come to fruition. Now, why would they sign Jones? Is he a competent starter? Well, he's better than most of the backups. And I think that intriguing element is why a lot of teams were interested in signing Jones. You don't often get a guy who has that much starting experience, as he was the 6th overall pick in the 2019 draft. And it's essentially the starter for the New York Giants over the last 6 years. And having that kind of starting experience in your building is a good thing, because when you talk about starting experience and when you talk about backup quarterbacks, a lot of backup quarterbacks don't have a ton of it. Nick Mullins does have a good amount of it. Jones has significantly more. You're not going to get a guy like an Andy Dalton, a Jacoby Brissett, a Marcus Mariota in your building in November. And it's important for the Vikings to be able to fortify that position for the sole fact that if Darnold goes down, they got to have somebody to put out there in Jones' starting experience and running ability. You'll be able to craft somewhat of an offense to pair with that elite defense and hopefully make some noise in the playoffs. But it's not just about this year. It's about the future. The Minnesota Vikings are always forward thinking, and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah proves it once again, because this is essentially a tryout for 2025. If they continue to build a relationship with Jones and KOC, which dates back to that 2019 draft. Because remember, Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders who drafted Dwayne Haskins. He spent a lot of time with all these quarterbacks trying to get to know them and figure out which one that they would want to take to lead their franchise into the next era of Commanders football. Well, that didn't end up necessarily happening because he went 6th overall, but that relationship stayed and was a big factor in why the Vikings ended up getting him. 2, it could be a compensatory pick. You elevate Daniel Jones to the active roster, and hey, guess what? He's eligible for the comp pick formula because backup quarterbacks, they're getting around $5, $6, $7 million contracts, which is plenty high enough to qualify. And with the Vikings having $75 million in cap space, they could use all of the help they could get in that formula to potentially get picks for 2026, especially when you think about the fact that they could get 3rd round picks for both Cam Robinson and Sam Darnold if they play their cards right. It's something to be weary of and something to understand that it's about the future. Plus, they may want to keep Jones in 2025. Sam Darnold's probably not coming back. Nick Mullins is fine. But if you could get a guy like Daniel Jones as your backup quarterback to JJ McCarthy, why wouldn't you do it? He understands how to be a mobile quarterback. He has a wealth of starting experience, and that's exactly what JJ McCarthy needs as he continues to develop and grow as this franchise's future starting quarterback. It's a win-win. Plus, Jones has the flexibility. If somebody goes down, he can go sign with another active roster and get that starting ability. But this just goes to show you what the Minnesota Vikings are doing at the quarterback position is so pivotal and is being respected around the league. This is essentially a quarterback rehab center. And Daniel Jones is the latest one to check in. Will it work? We'll find out. But it's a good bet for both sides, for now and in the future. I'm Tyler Forness with A to Z Sports. Skol Vikings.